Well, hello, everyone. Welcome to another great webinar. Today, we are so excited to call all educators, career trajectory enthusiasts in the higher education. So I'm Laura Torres here for Blue Star Careers. Welcome to our Blue Star Careers webinar, a weekly space to build and connect you with job opportunities, employer partners, and of course, career pathways while sharing with you the latest resources, tools, and support you in your next steps. You can find us here every Wednesday with great resources partners like Jessica here, but also you can meet them in the neighborhood. Make sure that you search for the Blue Star Career Community and connect with their profiles. Today, I'm very excited to welcome HERC Jobs and learn more about how job seekers, including military connected talent, can better understand career opportunities in higher education. This is going to be a very valuable conversation for anyone curious about career pathways beyond the traditional job boards, but also with us. Let me introduce you to Jessica Wise, co-executive director and director of programs at HERC Jobs. She will lead this discussion and complement all the great answers that you might have about higher ed educational jobs. So, Jessica, are you ready?
I'm ready. Let's go.
Let's go. Let's begin. Thank you so much. Well, once again, thank you so much for you who may be watching this or maybe tuning in, watch the replay. We welcome your comments, but also would love for you to pay it forward, tag, share this, reshare it with your communities. We all know a community out there who is very driven in education and we want to get a great career, and of course, find out more. So let's welcome Jessica. Thank you so much for being here for this great time that you are dedicating to our community. Would you please introduce yourselves and share a little bit more about what you do, beautiful sunny San Diego, any other great stuff that you like to do? Thank you.
Thank you, Laura, and thank you to Blue Star Careers. We're so happy to be here today, and my whole team's excited about this chance to connect with the military community. And for myself personally, as the spouse of a military veteran, this is particularly close to my heart. I've seen firsthand what working within higher ed can do, not just for the individual, but for the full family. And so this is that a lot of your taglines in that video were about community and growth. And so this is good space for us to have this conversation today. And what I really want to be able to do is I'll give some background information, but please start thinking about your questions. I know you get a lot of information from Laura and the Blue Star Careers team, but if we can answer specific questions today, we want to make sure that this is really the best time for you all to get those questions answered. Really looking forward to the discussion today, Laura.
Absolutely. And Jessica, how did you ended up here? What was your journey like before coming to HERC's Jobs? Tell us a
Yeah.
little bit about your own journey and why was this such a good fit for you?
Yeah, thank you for that question because it really fits with today's conversation. So I have a long career in higher education, and that spanned everything from grant management to working with students, working with the community members, and loved my experience working in higher ed. When my husband was stationed across the country, I needed to look for something flexible, and that's actually when I moved to HERC Jobs, and then we to be able to continue that mission of connecting people with careers in higher education. A lot of folks think that, hey, I don't have a PhD, I'm not a faculty member, I'm not even interested in teaching, so higher ed careers are not for me. And the way that we like to think about it is all the infrastructure that you have in a military installation. So everything from doctors and lawyers and tradesmen and all the pieces that go to making an installation work, those same jobs exist in a higher education environment. And today I want to dig in and tell you a little bit about kind of what those could be and more about how to best position yourself to apply for those roles in higher education. Oh, thanks, Laura, for getting that up so
Wonderful.
quickly.
Yeah. So we're
Great.
very excited to learn more. So why don't you please walk us through this short presentation, and then for the audience, if you are watching, please post your comments, post your questions. Let us know what type of higher ed career you thought about, and then between Jessica and I, we'll figure out how we can make some magic and make it happen for you in the
Yeah.
next future. So go ahead, Jessica, take it over.
Super. Yeah, so we talked a little bit about HERC jobs, but let me give you a little bit more background. So we work with colleges and universities across the United States to really help them create really dynamic, robust workforces. And so that's everything from helping to figure out what's going on in the recruitment and selection process, the advancement of those folks. We do a lot of research around the workforce that's available to them and what that workforce needs. So we're almost like an advocate for the workforce, for the higher education workforce. And then we also work directly with job seekers through our HERC Jobs website. And I think the link's been rotating on the cycle there too, but we can add it again. And so with that, we have both a job board and we have a comprehensive career resources site. So we know that there's a lot of job boards out there, but we want to make sure that the content you're getting from us is really specific to higher education and really specific to finding, applying for, and advancing careers. We want to see you through your whole journey. And so that's really our mission. We're a nonprofit organization, and we have around 200 colleges and universities that work with us for that shared mission. And so that really gives us a nice spread, everything from your technical and community colleges all through your kind of flagship and really well-known universities, all working together for the same idea of working on the workforce. We often think about higher ed as benefiting, looking outward, but we have our own workforce that we want to make sure is as robust and vibrant as our student community. So when you're thinking about jobs in higher education, there are at least 6, probably more things I want you to think about. The first thing on this list is really meaningful work and really thinking about working in an organization that has a mission and something that you can connect to. That might be the university as the whole university has a mission. So I was, for example, at CSU Monterey Bay, and we worked with a lot of first generation college students. And that was something that I was very passionate about as a first generation college student myself. It was something that I really wanted to invest in and make sure that those students received the services that they needed. Or it might be a unit on campus. So let's say you're really interested in informatics or big data, or you might be really interested in cancer research. You can connect your passion, your skill set with the mission of the organization or the unit. And that's something that really is unique, to only few industries can really offer that. The transferable skill sets, and this is something that applies to everyone on this call today, everyone within the military community, spouses, children, the actual service members themselves as well. You all have the skill set that people need. So that's being a self-starter, that's resourcefulness, that's leadership, communication skills, being able to work across people and roles, and really getting to get things done. It's a really phenomenal place to transfer those skill sets. It's a very collaborative workforce. The teams really, even if you're in accounting, but you really know that what you're doing is connected to students, and that is really linked to the meaningful work. And I think it's part of what creates that very collaborative workplace. There's also stability within higher ed, and even within right now, when we know that there's a lot happening in higher ed and it's very dynamic, it's still a very stable calendar structure, so very different than a corporate turnaround. And people stay with higher ed for many, many years, which I know is appealing, as we're looking for careers that we can really find our roots somewhere within higher education. The benefits are also very strong, and one thing that I know is really relevant for our community, and this is where we see some of those kind of lifting the full family and not just the individual for the role, is the education benefits. And that's something that I encourage everybody to be evaluating as they're applying for jobs. And, career salaries may not be as competitive as the corporate space, but I want you to think about the full structure of what you're getting and not just the salary, which is very important, not to negate that, but the benefits can be really beneficial. That wasn't intentional. The benefits can really flesh out what you're looking for in your career. And then that ability to grow your career at an institution, and have folks that really are invested in you as well. So those are just some of the things that are coming through. And I'm going to open up my chat box. If there's any questions, like Laura said, please start to put those in there, and we'll keep an eye on that. So like I said before, a lot of people think, I'm not faculty, I don't want to necessarily teach. And I want us to kind of move away from that way of thinking and think about all the variety of jobs that can be out there within higher education, and not just the types of jobs, but the institution types. So let's say you really want to work on something in your community that's very grounded with the community and connected to the community. You might be really well served working at a community college. If that's really what your goals are, that's a beautiful alignment. If you're interested in more cutting edge research, maybe something more in the technical and research space might be a better fit for you. So there's a lot of ways to triangulate that, and you can really be the owner of that. And as we talk through the rest of the presentation, we'll talk about some of those strategies as well. From this morning, I just happened to pull up some of the jobs that were posted as of today. There's thousands of jobs on our job board, but I just I'm going to put that up there for a second so you can see the full range of positions, and they're all types, all roles up there. You will also notice that some of the job titles are kind of boring. So I want you to take that, because we are often, constrained by, state regulations or even unions, things like that. Names might not always tell the full story. So what we're going to talk about later too is reading the job descriptions and really getting a sense for those jobs. So don't just look at the titles. It's a great place to start, but I encourage you to go deeper as you're looking at those full range of roles there. So let's talk about how to get started. The first thing that I want everyone to do is to really think about their keywords. And I'm going to pause here. I think technologically this works, but let's see if it does. I would like folks to start putting in some of the keywords that you've been thinking about or you've been using in your own personal journey, looking for a new career or looking for your next role. What are the keywords that you're thinking about and using, let's say on LinkedIn or these other places, Indeed, that you're looking for jobs? And we'll give you a couple seconds for the technology to connect there. So that's a really important place to start. And I really encourage people to start kind of broad with that and to get a number of keywords, because again, things don't always translate from a military environment. The words don't translate from a military environment to a higher ed or even corporate to higher ed. So starting with a broad range of job title or keywords is really important. But beyond that, what we want you to do is start reading those job descriptions, because it has so many different nuances in terms of where you're working, what kind of role is it with students, is it behind the scenes, what kind of position is it? And it's important to really hone that in. And this is a little bit like spidey sense. You'll get to a point where you kind of feel it in your bones, where you think, okay, this is the sort of job that I want to do. I didn't really realize that the student perspective was very important. That was something for my husband that was kind of a surprise, that he had so many years working with junior enlisted folks. And so he wasn't looking for that necessarily in his next role. But when he was working at a higher ed institution, he just thrived from being able to work with the freshman, sophomore, junior, and senior that are around the same age, and really love that mentorship aspect of it. So you reading those job descriptions kind of give you that additional insight to really understand what your needs are. I'm seeing some great ones coming in there: project manager, coordinator, some other things that are coming through in terms of the sort of roles that people are looking for. So start big, then start to refine it, and then go in and do that job search with those questions. And that will really help you also get closer to refining your search needs. Because one of the things that we do find, and I'll say specific, particularly with military spouses, because military spouses come in with such a broad range of experiences, sometimes the approach is, I'm just going to cast a wide net. I can do any of these 6 things. And we know that you can. But what happens when you do that is that you're not able to really be driving your job search. You're kind of being more passive to what comes to you rather than really targeted. And we really want to be targeted, building out our profiles on LinkedIn. Or, you might have 2 or 3 resumes, but you want to make sure those resumes really fit with really what you want to do, and being very thoughtful about what that may be. So especially for military spouses, I want you to go through this exercise, talk with people, get some feedback about what they think your strengths are, really refine your job search. After that, let me put this up here real quick. So this is on the top left there, you'll see what the HERC Jobs website is. You can see some of the job searches that can happen in that bottom left. That's where you can create job alerts. Start with 10, then refine it to 5. And then by the end of this process, you might even be down to 3 search terms, but that will really help you make sure that you're ready to jump into that next phase of the job search. Laura, if I'm missing anything in the chat, please feel free to interrupt me at any time, because there's a lot of content here.
Thank you.
The
No,
next step is,
I was
yes.
just thinking about you when you were sharing this exercise of reflecting back of your titles, and actually I went this morning to search your portal and just to test it out on certain titles that in our neighborhood community I posted in there. What kind of career jobs do you have interest on? And let me read to you some of what members shared. And obviously it
Yeah.
doesn't up here, but someone shared that they were looking for instance, somebody shared, they were looking for HR. Let me see. It says right here. Sorry, I'm getting to the post really quick. I know Kimberly is looking for talent acquisition out here, and then Stephanie is looking for communications professional. Public relations, and also she's looking for technologist. So those are the kind of things that Then I went into your website to kind of look through it, and start testing it as well. And then I see right here on LinkedIn we have one of our colleagues here, Marcia, who shared data analysis. So all of these job listings really make sense when you are exploring a little bit more intentional, right, Jessica?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And then, some of the things that you'll get when you read the job description. So our communications colleague. So communications can be the news and information office. It could be the public relations office. It could also be within a unit. So it could, if you, let's say you love science or you love medicine, or you have had a family member deal with cancer, you might want to work in a large cancer center and work on their communications within that. So there's ways to draw those pieces together that are a little bit more maybe creative or fulfilling than you could traditionally do. The technology piece of it also. Let's say you love technology, but you really like the personal interface. So looking for roles that maybe are different than traditional, those still exist. You can still have the isolated IT roles, not to say that those don't exist, but maybe you do enjoy that little bit more person-facing customer service connection with IT. Those roles exist as well. So yeah, that's a great example, and I love seeing how that can play out within higher education, and pulling those threads together is really really exciting. One really good way to do that also is talking with folks and really thinking about, okay, so I have these 3 or 4 jobs that are my dream jobs. I really want to work in those spaces. How do I get to that next step? And activating your professional network is such a wonderful way to do that. And really, this is a place where this community has a leg up because there's such a willingness to kind of put a hand out and help the next group do their transitions, that we have to take advantage of it. So activate those professional networks, build your profile online, ask for informational interviews. So not just with your known network. So that's great. Build that out, have those conversations, but really expand your network so that you're going to folks that are working in that role. It's a very easy ask. And people get it all the time. Laura, I'm sure you get it. I know all my colleagues get it. And we really love those conversations. So it's something as easy as, my name is so-and-so, I have this background, I saw your profile, this is the sort of job that I want to work towards, can I have 15 minutes of your time? You'll get half an hour at least, but you can start small. And people are very generous to help expand folks' careers. So take advantage of that, really lean into that, because there's nothing like talking with someone to help you refine your career trajectory and also get you to that next stage. Laura, I am watching the time, so I'll make sure to get through the
And
last couple
just
slides
to
here.
share a little kind of a reflective
Yeah,
moment of that, a great, really great wise mentor in the past once told me, go to LinkedIn, identify who has the job that you want, and then track them, watch them, and then eventually build the momentum to ask them, can I steal 15 minutes of your time so that I can ask you, exactly what do you do in your job, and then explore if that's really what you want to do. And so that actually worked really well for me, particularly being able to reflect that. So Jessica, I may reach
yeah,
out to you on LinkedIn and say, Jessica, may I steal
yeah.
50 minutes of your time?
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And it is, folks are incredibly generous from that perspective. So don't feel shy to do it. If they're not interested, they'll just not answer you on LinkedIn. It's easy for them to not have to say no even, but they'll be happy to say yes, or they'll say, yeah, you know what, that sounds like a great connection with one of my colleagues. Let me introduce you. And so to take advantage of that. And like you said, Laura, to start to follow them, interact with their posts, that's all great, but take that next step and do the ask. I think people really do welcome that. So now if you think about the journey we've been on, so we've really developed out our really targeted jobs that we're interested in, maybe institutions that we're interested in. We've activated our network. Now it's time to really get our materials together. So the first thing, especially if you're a military personnel that's transitioning, really tailoring that resume to the higher education realm or just out of military speak. So there's a couple links on the bottom. I know Laura's probably shared a lot of those in the past, but to be able to do some of that translation to support you with that is very, very important. And part of that too is when you think about your packages historically, there weren't the metrics necessarily, the outcomes always available in your packets, but now you have that opportunity to tell the story. And like we talked about earlier, those transferable skills are really, really critical to talk to and about those. Again, that might not be anything someone's asked you about in the past. So being ready to tell those stories and being ready to kind of bring that to the front. And those are places that you can have in your resume as well as your cover letter. And I know you probably had other speakers on here that say, don't worry about the cover letter, it's outdated. And we know it may be, but in higher ed, those are still being read. And it is a really important part of the package. I encourage you to not rely on AI because that is really obvious. I encourage you to put your own person in there and to tell your story and what you're excited about the role, what transferable skills you have, address any, big gaps in your resume, things like that. But really make sure that you connect with the mission and you drive home the point of where your resume connects with the role. We, of course, use targeted resumes for each application. This is where having maybe a couple sorts of jobs or buckets of jobs is really helpful. So let's say you have a contracting background, but you also have some finance. So you might have a finance focused one, a contracting focused one, and then a more general one as you're going into the job search. The application process can be kind of clunky regardless of what industry you're going into, but following those steps is really important. In some cases, applicants are, not included in the process if they're missing key documents. So be sure to read through all that. As tedious as it is really important. And then be sure to mirror the job description language in your materials, and that does take some customization. That might be where you can call in some AI and say, compare my resume to this job description, and call out where I'm not using equivalent language. And so you can use technology to help you, but make sure that you're always looking at that through a very human lens. Now you've prepared your materials, and now you're starting to get into hopefully the interview and selection process. There are some things that are different. It's loading, so we'll just take a second to get up here. That will help you prepare for the selection process. That's a little different than maybe other job processes that you've gone through. So it is very possible that you'll have a multi-step process, that you have an initial screening, an interview, and maybe a follow-up interview depending on the role. And those interviews tend to be committee based. This really goes back to what we talked about before, that these are very collaborative workplaces. So rarely are you just a unit of one, but you're connected to other folks. And this is now moving on back to our service members to really get comfortable telling your stories. This is where you have to have getting a little comfortable, being not so much a braggart, but be able to tell your story and really explain what your experience is. This is a really important piece of it. Be prepared for behavioral and situational interviews. So they might ask you not just the skills that you have, but how you made decisions. Not just how much money you managed, but then how you dealt with conflict and playing that out within a team. So those sort of questions might be different for you. The other part I want you to prepare is questions. And I know, again, back to our service members, it's very easy to get into the mode of, I'm going to go in there and I'm going to figure it out. And we know that that's kind of almost in your DNA. But this provides for that back and forth and shows curiosity and shows interest. And it's a good way to really fill in gaps. So you have an opportunity to ask questions as well. Timelines are a little longer in the higher education recruitment process, so I encourage you to start that process thinking back to our keywords as early as possible so you can start moving things forward. This is especially important for our change of station folks to be thinking about that ahead of time and doing some of those informational interviews very early on so that you can start to build that network in your new hometown. There is a very collaborative and friendly culture, but these questions and interviews are very, very structured, and that's for really good reason. They want to make sure everybody has the same shot of answering all the questions. So it will be collaborative, it will be friendly, but it will be very structured. And then I encourage you to look at what hiring initiatives are available for veterans and military families, and really invest in those as well. The university benefits from that, and so do you. So there's an opportunity for you to ask about that if it's not visible, and show the interest from those pieces. So I'm going to leave up this last screen for just a minute. There's a QR code there that gets you directly to some of the resources that we have available for military families. You can just go to hercjobs.org, or you can go directly to that site. The other thing I want to really highlight for folks, and this is the opportunity to do some of those information interviews. Next month on April 22nd, we're hosting a Veterans Career Fair for veterans and military families. And we have as of today, I believe we have 10, but we anticipate having 15 or so universities and colleges from all over the U.S. joining us for that. And what's really nice is that there's all kinds of institution types. So there's community colleges all the way through kind of those flagship universities. And that's a good chance to get in there and say, hey, thinking back, Laura, of your folks that I'm interested in communications. Tell me how those roles look on your campus and what opportunities are available to me. So I encourage you to do that and jump into that career fair. It's virtual, it's easy, and there's lots of folks there available to do some of that connections.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for that insight, and we'll definitely share the link in direct traffic to enroll and sign up for this opportunity. This is incredible, and I mean, and you're so right. There's just a little bit of everything for anyone wanting to work in higher education. And I do have a quick question
Mm-hmm.
here for you, and you touch a little bit on that, but it came out PCS season, and because it takes a little bit
Yeah.
longer, what will be some of the best practice reminders a little bit more? What should we be doing now, knowing that we are moving in the
Yeah.
summer? yet probably don't know yet exactly where.
Yeah, yeah, and I think if you have a couple places that you know that you're in contention for, I think it's very worthwhile to connect with those universities in those areas. I really also encourage you to look at the community colleges in those areas because they may be actually closer geographically to your station. So that's another, when you think about where universities are, community colleges can be very closely aligned with our installation. So I heavily encourage you to connect with the HR offices, or if there's a group that you're interested in working in, it's fine to do that to 2 or 3 places, and let them know kind of what you're looking for. Some of those folks also have military spouse partnerships. So I encourage you to look at that as a possibility as well to leverage those. But start early. I think it's absolutely worthwhile to do that.
Wonderful. And I would like to send a shout out to, is it
Marsha,
Marsha?
yeah,
Marsha, right?
hi.
Thank you, Marsha, for sharing the link for the registration for the career fair. So if you're watching and you're shy and you don't want to necessarily pop a question or ask, you'll be watching, of course, mailing full in detail. It's okay. Just know that the links are all in the comments, and so that is they're accessible for you to explore further and be able to, make a strategy, make a plan, make a just a good calendar, I guess, so visual of yourself, whatever that looks like, and so that you can make it fit within your lifestyle, and then be able to accommodate that in the next coming
Yeah.
weeks. So make sure that you are exploring that. I do have a question here as well, Jessica, for you. um, when it comes to, I go to your website, I find some great opportunities, finding the right fit. What are some of those best practices, tips that in today 2026 you have seen that is working or maybe not working so much? What advice would you like
Yeah,
to
I
share
think
with
the
someone?
first thing is really honing in on what you are looking for in your career. I think that I probably said this before, but I just want to say it again, especially with our military spouses that can really have that broad experience of being very targeted and disciplined about what sort of role you're looking for. Yeah, that can change, but start with 2 or 3 jobs that you're very interested in and be targeted in that search, in the development of your network. And I think maybe when you say 2026 and what's working and what's not working, some of the basics are the best, right? So things like developing your professional network. I have a kind of a visual in my mind of who's going to give me really critical feedback on my resume, who's going to help me connect to folks, who's going to be my cheerleader. So really think about this mentor network that you have there, or your colleague network, that you can really tap into those very specific things. It's not just networking for networking purposes, but I love to have someone, like I said, someone that will read my stuff and say, not just, oh, that's great, right? We want someone that's going to give us some really good critical feedback, or that knows us well and says, hey, you didn't mention that you're really interested in communications, or that you have an analytics background, or whatever it is, or that you're a great problem solver. Those sort of things. Let's beef that up. So having all those mentors in your network is really important, and being very strategic in that as well. So that real being very strategic is there. The new things that are working also, I talked a little bit about utilizing technology and how best to do that. Really making sure that you're not overly relying. AI is such an important tool and something for efficiency's sakes. We know it, I mean, my goodness, to try to have customized materials for everything is a lot of work, right? That is a lot of investment, and some of us don't have quite the bandwidth to do all of that. So use AI, but do so in a way where you're always putting a human touch on it. You're rereading everything, you're putting it into your own words, and not overly relying on it. So finding that balance, I think, is one of those new skills. And I think that would probably be another thing too, is just be really thinking about how some of these new technologies can really be innovative. You can change your spaces, and could be really a new thing that you're bringing into an organization. So the last part that we really didn't talk about on the call, or is accessing tools and resources in education. So I know through you all, through MSEP, through even just through LinkedIn, I think people can get LinkedIn Learning through some of the services, and getting yourself up to speed on some of these new technologies is another thing that's working really well as well.
Absolutely, thank you. And then a very famous question, then of course it would not be it's usually always ask through our community and especially in our Facebook Spouse First community. Thank you for this question, by the way. Are there any remote opportunities that you often see in higher ed or in this particular, in your portal?
Yes, yes, you will absolutely see remote opportunities. That what a lot of our institutions are doing, and this is really reflects what we know from our job seekers as well, is that they're looking for hybrid positions. I know that doesn't work for every station, so with acknowledging that, but there are a lot of hybrid positions. The thing I would caution for is not to just rely on the searches, because what institutions were finding is that as soon as they put hybrid or virtual, they were getting all kinds of applicants that weren't even had no alignment with the role, so they kind of backed off of just checking the box. But if you read the detail, there will be information in there, so don't just stop at that initial search. Look at those job descriptions, and then also, of course, be mindful of the sort of roles. So as you're doing that refinement, that can be something that you're looking at. So let's say you're looking at a financial sort of role. Anything to do with kind of student financial aid might require you to be in person and have that opportunity to connect with students. But there may be roles behind the scenes that are an accounting role that would be available to you. So think about that lens also when you're refining your job search. And then it's also just a completely changing environment where, for example, student advising used to be a very in-person experience, but now we're finding that students do want to do those appointments virtually. And so there's even more flexibility coming with that. So keep an eye on it. Don't overly rely on the click boxes, read the job descriptions, and use that as one of your filters when you're really honing in on your job search.
Absolutely, yes. To read the job description in full detail, all the way to the bottom, because sometimes, I find it so fascinating, Jessica, when I have sometimes one-on-one calls with a few members, and we're talking about their career trajectory, and then reviewing the resume, and they're like, "Wait, so the last 3 years, what have you been doing?" "Oh, well, I was taking care of my mom, doing these different alternative sort of a task or volunteering." Like, what's that not reflecting on your resume? So there's a lot of skills that sometimes we live out of our career or professional career trajectory because, I don't know, we were advised or
Yeah.
um regardless. So just be mindful of having those discussions directly with the area or the institution expert. And that's why we love to have these webinars, is because now we're hearing it directly from you. You are telling us what works through for your community through HERC's jobs, and you heard it better from the institutions. What's actually more applicable versus somebody else over in a tech company out there somewhere in Silicon Valley,
Yeah.
right? Because you know that you work directly with them further and more. So it looks like you have a potential applicant for your jobs behind the
I
scenes.
love yeah. So, and just to say that too, one of the other things that we struggle with, especially military spouses, we move around a lot, right? That's going to be a given,
Sure.
particularly before we moved into remote roles. And so, with that, um, are you able to hear the dog in the background? Is it picking it up?
Yes.
Okay, I'll say
Yep.
this
A
quickly
little
and
bit.
then I'll move on back to mute. So one of the things that people struggle with is how to address that in their resume or in their job description. And what I really want to encourage folks is to keep that very short and sweet, to say, I'm a military spouse, we've changed stations, that explains the background, but not to apologize for it. Really lean into the strengths that's given you. So we talked about it before: adaptability, self-starter, flexibility, cross-training, all of those things that experience has brought you, rather than focusing on the moves. And what I want to also say is on my side, on the HERC side, what we're doing and working very hard at is educating our employers. Hey, let's look at what the average tenure is of jobs these days. People don't stay in jobs for their full career always. A tenure is 2 and 3 years. So here you have someone that has the average job tenure and they have those adaptability skills. So we'll take care of that part of it. We'll continue that conversation with employers. And I just encourage folks to really use their resume to highlight the strengths rather than looking at apologizing or defending the changing timeframes of your institutions.
Awesome. And then another quick question here from this: if I'm relocating this summer, but I do get a job from your portal, and then am I able to transition? you assist with transitioning to another university, another college, or do I have to start the process all
You
over
need
again?
to start the process all over again. But the thing that is really kind of the good and the bad of higher education is that we tend to think, oh, people don't really know what it's like to work in higher ed. So when you have shown experience of working in higher education, that is going to elevate your application, and people will see that you have that interest and you have that experience. You know what you're getting into. So if you go from one community college in one state, the community college in the other state will be different, but it's not going to be a wildly different environment. That's also where I really encourage people to lean into their network. So go to your HR representative at your current institution or your current role and see who they know in the new place you're working for. And those informal networks, that won't guarantee you a job, but that may guarantee you an informational interview, and that network can be really valuable. And everything on the HERC jobs side of so the web page, all those resources, the job alerts, there's never cost to that. So keep accessing those resources.
Awesome. And so I'm going to share really quick so that the folks know exactly. And I know we share all the links, and so you can just click on it. But if you are driving or you can't click on any of those things right now because you're just busy scrolling, let me show you what the career fair we were talking about right here, the virtual fair. So when you get there through the link, make sure that you get to the right one. This is what it will look like. And so you just want to make sure that you register. It's April 22nd, which is just looks like there's another one on the 17th. So we are in the right path. And then if you want to search for jobs right here, you click for jobs directly. And you can, of course, explore, just like Jessica earlier encouraged us to think about your titles. What makes more sense based your specific needs, what you have done, what you have, again, the drive to do, who's your customer, as we like to say it in our entrepreneurship class, who's your customer, who would you like to serve. So make sure that you are considering those things when you are searching through the site. And then of course, if you need anything, if you have any questions, reach out. We're right here on LinkedIn, or we're right here in the neighborhood, one message away, and let us know how we can support you. Jessica, before we go, because I forgot last Wednesday to send shout outs, let's take some time to send some shout outs to some great people that are supporting this webinar. And so if we go really quick to Facebook, let's say, send a quick shout out to Stacy. Thank you, Angela. We have Kristen, and then we have Heather. Thank you so much for supporting. If we go really quick to LinkedIn, we'd like to send a quick shout out to Chris, Adrian. Thank you, Adrian, for always supporting and showing up. Thank you to Pam as well. And thank you to another Laura. Thank you so much. And then in our neighborhood, of course, we have our Sierra, we have Stephanie, and we have Stephanie. And then just right here, scrolling down on the names just to make sure I don't miss it. Anna. Thank you, Anna, for being here and supporting. And if you have any additional questions to anyone who is watching or may watch this replay, please post them in the comments or go to our neighborhood and post them out there as well. We'll make sure that you get the responses you need or connect you directly with Jessica, and then we can figure it out how we can best support you and work with you so that you can get into your next workstation the way you need to make it. So, Jessica, anything that you can say or send us into a call action? What are some, some good best practices, food for thought that we can do as we close this segment?
Yeah, well, thank you, Laura. This has just been always such a fun conversation. And I am just tickled with the idea of folks, all the folks that you gave the shout out to, maybe starting their job searches today. So hopefully you've gone to the site, put in your keywords, started reading a few job descriptions. Like Laura said, read the whole thing, get the detail, look for that spidey sense. It matters. So my call to action is doing the set up your job searches and really get to understand what sort of opportunities are available for you. Because the thing that is so inspiring and really fuels my whole team, and Laura, I know you can relate to this, is really connecting to people that for careers that matter, that fund what they need for their family so that they're secure financially, that really speak to what their passions are and what they're committed to, that they're connected to community and to mission, and that it really elevates the whole family. So thinking about those benefits. So this is where higher ed can really come in, and provide these really phenomenal opportunities for growth and expansion and really serving your community and your family. So hopefully folks will start to set up those job searches and get one step closer. And like Laura said, we are here and available for assistance however we can. And hopefully we'll see you on the campus soon.
Absolutely, thank you. And I gotta tell you a really quick, short story. When I met you and when I started exploring your site, I got so excited. I went and I told my daughter about it. She's a young adult who just graduated with her master's and then doing other research and other career pathways of her own. But I got excited, and it's like, look, there's the site for you,
Yeah.
the educational enthusiast. This is a perfect place where you can start exploring. So I'm very excited that your organization really makes it a very inclusive to everyone out there. Of course, our target audiences are military spouse and our veteran and transition community, but everyone is welcome. Anyone who
Mhm.
has the love for higher education and just for a really meaningful career, please check it out and don't keep it to yourself. Pay it forward, and then. Of course, thank you so much, Jessica, for being here today and for supporting us. We'll look forward to staying in touch with you. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day, everyone.